With over 800 exhibitors gathering in Las Vegas, Nevada, NBAA-BACE is North America's largest gathering for the business aviation industry. After being forced to cancel the event in 2020, NBAA 21 will simply not disappoint. With unprecedented demand for private aircraft coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, the world's most advanced business aircraft are here on display. Suppliers up and down the supply chain are represented here at this event and come together with private, corporate, and commercial business aviation operators from across the industry, all ready to meet face-to-face once again and collaborate in advancing the business aviation industry. And now on Straight and Level, we're joined by Nicolas Chabbert, who's the CEO of DAHER, who's also the corporation that brings you the TBM as well as the Kodiak. Thank you so much for joining the program today.
Well, happy to be here.
Really appreciate you being here at NBAA live on the static display at Henderson Airport. I've got to jump to the hottest topic probably in aviation, the Autoland and the TBM. Tell us a little bit about that integration and the amazing efficiencies and amazing safety that brings to your products.
Well, thank you for asking this very important topic. I cannot be more passionate about what Autoland can provide in this world. And of course, let me switch that emergency Autoland for us is called Homesafe for the TBM 940. What it really does, it is for the first time an option that is no longer directed to the pilot. And this pilot community has been very selfish to also look at any kind of innovations and options that we can provide to them. But this is the first time ever that we actually have a technical function that is addressed to the passengers.
That's incredible. I think the safety and efficiency that brings so much comfort to passengers that, you know, if something is happening in the cockpit, you can press that button and you can get the aircraft on the ground safely. And especially in your platforms, the TBM is by far one of the highest performing airplanes across all of aviation that you guys build. And I'm so excited about what you guys have integrated there and the other technologies. What else do you have in the pipeline and innovation right now across your platform?
Well, there is a lot that we do in terms of innovation. And of course, we like to make sure that this is going to be a product before we can talk about it. But we are extremely excited to work towards new technology. As you know, we are big into sustainable aviation, and we want to actually help in that respect what the progress we need to do in aviation. So first is about now and how we can address this issue. We have, like many of my colleagues, adopted SAF, which in fact, you know, is a new alternative fuel, let's call it. But in fact, it is virtually Jet A that is no longer going to be coming from fossil, and therefore that is going to help us reduce dramatically the CO2 emissions.
That's really great.
So does it actually reduce the CO2 emissions? What takes its place? What exactly is coming out of the exhaust now?
Well, the real thing is that the adoption of SAF fuels, or the alternative sustainable, alternative fuel, is going to help us in an entire spectrum of different things that needs to happen so that we can achieve our commitment for carbon neutral by 2050.
Okay.
And what does it mean is we have some components in operation, we have some components in the efficiency and the design of the aircraft, where we basically have better and more efficient vehicle in the air. But we also need to have a fuel that essentially is no longer taking any oil from underground and making it with a formula so we can achieve our CO2 emission restriction.
Okay, and this is a question you may or may not know the answer to. I just thought of, what's the difference in BTU ratings from the sustainable fuel to the fossil fuel?
Well, there is it's a complex formula, but we basically have to find alternative so we can have the same formula in terms of the use of that fuel. Okay. So you use some other type of, and there is many formulas that comes, from waste management,
animal
so
products.
from also other type of crop that we can basically turn into not as negative in terms of emissions. So it's a very complex formula, but at the end what really matters is that the carbonation of those fuel is no longer going to be having a negative impact
Sure.
on the.
Are
on
both
the
of
planet.
your product lines, the TBM and the Kodiak, are they running on SAF today?
Any products that is going to use Gen A today, whether it's a turbine or a turbofan, as a direct replacement with SAF. So that's why we say that today. It's in fact the machine doesn't know the difference. There is absolutely, I've flown the aircraft under SAF, and there is absolutely nothing that you can see in the pipe, nor the internal temperature change, nor any behavior changes. So as at the end of the day, in fact, today there is no penalties, but the only interim adoption or early adoption, which is driving the cost up, and we need to get the cost down with a larger volume adoption.
Yeah, infrastructure challenges, distribution challenges with SAF, but your aircraft and your product lines are SAF ready today.
Absolutely. The PT6 and therefore the PT6 fitted in the TBM and the Kodiak are absolutely 100% compatible.
That's incredible. Danny, I know you have some other interesting questions for Nicolas.
Well, my main thing, I'd like to go back to Autoland. This is not your father's Autoland where you set in a profile and it flies itself. That's great. What this is, right, is a passenger activated autopilot where the aircraft will actually pick the most appropriate closest airport and land itself and stop safely with an incapacitated pilot. That's a huge deal. So not only am I safe and I'm the passenger, I'm still alive, my pilot gets to care sooner as opposed to wait for the airplane to get to the other end. So that's a huge deal to me.
Do you see the Homesafe as really changing the market that you could sell your aircraft into? Does it open up a new segment of the market where maybe people who are a little timid to be in their own owner-flown aircraft? Are you seeing that expanding the potential reach of your airplanes?
It's a great question. I think that this market is going to expand, is already expanding. It takes always a little bit of time to be familiar and understanding what is really behind such offer like Homesafe. First off, for the existing customers, it changed totally the behavior. It may be another option, but in fact it is not. It is a different relationship that you have in the cockpit, let's say with the typical pilot and his wife or significant others. And the relationship is, she's going to say, you fly this aircraft, but I want the button. I want an option. I want my insurance line. So from that, what we saw is that to be true, but we also see a change in the way fleet operators are seeing this type of option. Because today we're challenged on the economical path where you want to have, if you want to provide safety, ultimate safety to your passengers, you will probably choose to go on dual crew type of operations. Well, your dual crew is already with one crew embedded into the system of the aircraft. And it's actually a very redundant system to the human that is going to fly the aircraft the majority of the time.
I agree. I think, David, this goes to what we've seen with some of the eVTOL products with Homesafe. It's an interim step to true autonomy, where a passenger now has comfort to where they can press the Homesafe button and then return to the closest airport in the event there's a technology challenge. I mean, I'm curious, Nicolas, do you see this as an interim step toward more autonomy in your products?
Absolutely, and I believe personally on incremental steps. This is automation. We are not totally in the autonomous flights, but we're heading towards that because technically speaking, it is already true. What we need to integrate in the different necessary pillars to get into a complete autonomous flight, we need to have the automation to reach the point where it is integrated with the other systems that are around. Right now, the aircraft is not alone. I mean, you need air traffic control, you need ground support, you need, in fact, some kind of other support, to put the aircraft in the air, such as maintenance. So there is no such thing as totally autonomy. So the automation is a step to really push the boundaries and also create the confidence of the regulator that is going to see that it is safe, it is proven, and the change of habits, the change of mindsets will evolve ultimately. Like if you were to say, How many of you have opened the hood of your car to check if the carburetor is still functioning? We haven't seen or done that for the last 20 years, right?
That's exactly right. I want to switch gears real quick. You're the current chairman of the General Aviation Manufacturers Association, and I want to lever that into a question for you about the demand that we're seeing in aviation right now. You know, unprecedented growth. We're looking at 35% of all aircraft transactions are first-time buyers. So that 35%, we're seeing about 53% of those really being their first experiences in aviation. And you know, my question is, what does that mean for TBM? What does that mean for Kodiak? And what does that mean for DAHER, all as a whole organization? Where do you see this going, and where do you see your aircraft in the backlogs, and how are we going to meet the demand for aviation as we go forward in the 21st century?
Well, that's many questions in one, let's say. Well, first, you know, we're no strange to the rest of the industry. Our backlog has increased immensely, and of course our volume is going to meet those 30%, 35% that you're talking about, both on the TBM and the Kodiak. What does it mean is that, you know, back to the question on air mobility, I believe that this is a demonstration that this is not something that is a promise for tomorrow. This is something that is already happening. I am fervently excited, in fact, and extremely pleased to see that general aviation is a very important way or means of transportation, and especially in this country. I mean, look, the US is a fantastic place where you need the mobility. When people think that we could basically not have air transportation, this is simply not going to happen. We need that. So the fact that we were able to attract new people is coming also from the fact that the big commercial airline transport, which is going to be present, may be a little bit rebalanced with a little bit more direct and in fact more personalized type of transportation, provided again that we can make it sustainable. And that's what is the key for this industry. My company is to make sure that we are going to be meeting those sustainability objectives.
Well, if I want to write you a check, when's the soonest I can get a TBM 940?
It's going to be mid-2022.
That's incredible. Well, Nicolas, thank you so much for joining us here on Straight and Level today, live from the broadcast set in the middle of the Henderson Executive Airport at the NBAA static display. We really appreciate it. Please come back on the program. We'd love to talk to you some more about the TBM and the Kodiak.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. It's great to be back face-to-face in the business aviation industry. On behalf of the crew of Straight and Level, a special thanks to all of our guests for joining us live on the broadcast set in the NBAA static display. I'm Hulsey Smith, and until next time, blue skies.